My wife cheated on me 2 years ago, and we worked through it. Now I want to leave, and I feel guilty. Just over 2 years ago, my wife cheated on me with a coworker at her work Christmas party out of town. She told me immediately the morning after. To say I was disappointed would be an understatement. This happened pretty much immediately prior to our country going into lockdown, so we were stuck together. I was in a bit of a daze at the time and just kind of went through the motions. I was angry and miserable, but I also wanted to understand why she would do it. Hence, it made sense to work through it at the time, seeing as we were seemingly stuck together. To her credit, though, she did everything possible to make it right. She quit her job, cut off all contact with the coworker, offered to go to therapy or counseling, and even admitted what she did publicly. I never asked her to do this, and her mother and sister are very close to her and were appalled. She became much more loving and considerate and even offered to let me sleep with someone else. I was actually upset with this suggestion, but she was only saying it out of desperation. Fast forward to now, 2 years later, and by all accounts, things feel like they're back to normal again. At least for her. She's no longer moping around the house, stepping on eggshells in conversation, or breaking down when anything regarding cheating happens. She started crying while we were watching a soap where a wife cheats on her husband. Unfortunately, I feel like this return to normalcy has reopened the wound. I think about that night more these days than I did during the previous 2 years. I don't know why, but I think that society returning to a bit of a pre-2020 state has made me feel like I've gone back in time to that evening. I can't stand to look at her anymore. Not in a she disgusts me way, but in more of a why are you still even here kind of way. I feel guilty for wanting to leave now after all the work she put in, even though logically I know I shouldn't. I feel like I'm the bad guy for wanting to end the marriage after all the work she has put in. I know people will be able to easily say, she made her bed, etc. But I'm still really struggling with the idea of leaving her for her sake. I don't hate her for it, but I don't think I love her anymore, and I know this will destroy her. Part of me wishes I was strong enough to have left when it happened. Anyone been in a similar situation or have any advice? Thanks in advance. Edit, thanks for all the responses. I feel I had already made up my mind about what I needed to do, but having people validate that I wouldn't be wrong for leaving has given me the push I need. I'll be talking to my wife later today. Comments, mostly relevant. You can't help the way you feel. Her effort to make things right is completely admirable, but ultimately, a relationship is two people and two sets of feelings. Staying for her sake helps no one. She will sense you are there for the wrong reasons, and it will cause a brand new set of issues. If you don't love her, then leave. It will hurt in the beginning. But if you don't hate her, then you wouldn't want her to be deprived of love, and you deserve to be in a place where you trust and love fearlessly. Staying for the sake of never works in a good way. Be kind in the break, but don't stay for some misguided idea that you are a knight in shining armor. You will both survive and thrive. Blade 982. A lot of people find themselves in your situation. They don't immediately leave because they've been blindsided and everything is too much to process, but once they come to terms with the betrayal, they can no longer look past it. Don't see the last 2 years as wasted. If you had left that night, you may still have been suffering from the trauma of betrayal. You've had a chance to work through it, seen her remorse, and fallen out of love with her organically. It will be difficult for her. She's done all the right things since she cheated. But reconciliation is never guaranteed. It will be better for her and for you to split before true resentment sets in. IDOWorkHereLady on TV. I have never worked through cheating. I was never strong enough to do that. I have always been the type to believe that if they cheat on you once and you go back, they know they can get away with it. It's really not hard to stay faithful. Whenever I am seeing someone, I just make sure I bring them up when I'm talking to the opposite sex. That is usually enough to get them not to flirt with you. From a deleted account. From your post, you've discussed a lot of what she did to get through this and how her emotions were wrecked, but you do very little to emphasize what you did to get through this. You state that, because of lockdown, you felt you had to work through things because you were stuck together. It seems as though, during those 2 years, you've been comforting your wife through her own cheating by being understanding of her fragile state. Even now, you're mentioning how you can't leave for her sake, when in reality, you should be thinking about your own. I can't help but feel that, while in lockdown, you felt you had no other option but to power through. This is all conjecture. You could have gotten help during that time and not written about it, but it would have been an important thing to mention. However, now that lockdown is over, perhaps you're beginning to realize that this isn't what you wanted after all, now that the opportunities to separate are presenting themselves. Update. Thanks to everyone who commented on my previous post. I was surprised at how much people cared about my benign marriage problems, but it helped me a lot. I checked this account out today to see what the responses were since last week and was taken aback by the number of people who wanted an update. The day after I posted, I talked to my wife and laid out my feelings. I mentioned some of the points that people in my previous post articulated very well that resonated with me. I told her that while I had forgiven her, I was struggling to forget what happened, and the fact that we're seemingly going back to normal had triggered something in me, and now I couldn't stop thinking about it. I said that while I do appreciate all the work she put in to try and save our marriage, I couldn't continue anymore. I mentioned a point that someone in my previous post made, that while we were in lockdown, it almost felt easier to just ignore the issue to some degree as I would always know where she was or what she was doing. But recently, for the first time since it happened, she's going into town and visiting friends, and my mind is just running at 100 miles per hour while she's out. Who is she with? Why is she slightly late home, etc.? And I haven't had to confront these feelings before. She cried, I cried, she begged me to stay, and I cried again. We spent what felt like hours just sitting together in the living room, not speaking at points. She asked the same questions multiple times. Do I still love her? Will we ever see each other again? And is there anything we can try to make this work? I think eventually she was doing it to delay the inevitable. She's now staying at her mom's house, and I'm going to file for divorce. I know it's easy to lay all the blame at her feet when you're on the outside looking, but I feel just as bad today as I did the day I found out what happened. I am heartbroken again and know full well I'm going to question myself if I've made the right choice. You can tell me it is the right choice all you like. There is no way I will ever be sure this was the right choice. There are no winners with this SHT. Everyone is miserable, everything sucks. And I'm here reliving the most painful experience of my life for the benefit of a bunch of internet strangers who probably only want to read about the drama and have no reason to care about me personally. I don't mean to come across as bitter. I had lots of genuinely supportive comments on my previous post. I'm just really struggling right now. I won't be using this account or responding here again after this post. Thanks to everyone who commented on my previous post. The wife cheated 2 years ago. I originally worked through it, but now I've decided to end the marriage. Everybody loses. Comments. Life's a lot of shit. Gosh, I wish people understood the pain that comes with cheating. Not just the pain, but the loss, because the loss keeps the pain around on both sides. Blue Heaven 90. It truly gets better with time. I went through this and tried to work it out. For me, once trust is broken, it can never be the same. I would think I was moving on, and something would trigger reliving all of the heartbreak. After we split, it took a couple years before I was ready for a serious relationship. We were together for 6 years. I'm glad that I decided to live alone and basically date myself for a while. Now, I've been with my BF for almost 4 years. I don't stress if he goes out or makes a new friend who's a girl. I never have that little voice in the back of my mind worrying about whether he's cheating. I will waste my time in another unhealthy relationship. G-spot on fire. And there is it again, my favorite sentence. Cheating is cheating. No turning back, no second chance. I feel sorry for you, but you saw for yourself how this worked out. Girls and boys pretend this is a lesson. If you get F-ed, better run as fast as possible, the furthest away. There is no recovery without a trust and love break. Never ever with the said person. Beerbelly 22. You don't have to divorce if you feel you can never trust her. Do whatever is best for you. Reddit is always giving divorce advice. Scroll through it, and you will see I am right. A counselor can do better. Thank you for watching the video.